Booktube and welcome back to my channel. I am Sarah. This is Aussie SFF. Why I chose a channel name that has S's in it with my lisp, I will never know. But today I'm going to bring you my recommended read-alikes for Harry Potter. Here we go. These are books that I have read and I think have elements of what people love about Harry Potter. Now, we're never going to have another Harry Potter because that's Barry Trotter, done by the Lampoon Society. I have read those. That is hilarious. That is not what we have here. In no particular order, and I will be reading off my notes on my laptop at stages today. The first book that I grabbed off my piles, I have piles here, is the Septimus Heap book. This is book 2. I haven't read book 2. What I have read is book 1, but I listened to it. And these have the elements that it is a story about a small child or children that are discovering a whole new world, which is basically what, although Ron grew up in the magic world, Harry and Hermione did not. So the discovery of a whole new world of mythical creatures and magic, that's what's happening in these ones. This series is by Angie Sage. Actually, I'm pretty sure Septimus Heap is also an orphan. It's been a while, but yeah. So there's that too. In the same vein, we have the Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel series, which center around, obviously, Nicholas Flamel, who was a not off camera because it was in a book, but off to the side character in Harry Potter, i.e. the Philosopher's Stone. Because he was actually a person. We have Nicholas Flamel and his wife, and they are the caretakers of the Philosopher's Stone, which makes them immortal. We have Josh and Sophie Newman, who Josh was working in Nick. He was going by the name of just Nick in modern day, Nick's bookshop, and his twin sister Sophie was working across the road at a herbal tea place. I don't think it was a coffee place. There was definitely tea. Dr. John Dee, who has come to steal away Nicholas Flamel's The Book of Abraham, which has the recipe for the immortal spell that they use each month. And so there is the twins, the Newman twins, who are now embroiled in this whole other world that they never knew existed, with magic and mythical creatures and all of that sort of thing, and that is why it is a read-alike to Harry Potter. Next is one I actually don't own, but I've read the first one out of the library, and that is Inkheart. And I've only read the first one of this one because it wasn't quite my style, but again, it is a normal world where magic is introduced, and the young character, I can't think of her name right now, she is involved in this world where all of a sudden her father can read things out of books, so bad people come along and try and take advantage of that. This next one is not so much in the fantasy realm, but it is kids who are overcoming the foulest of events. So this series of unfortunate events by Lemony Snicket, starting with A Bad Beginning. These are a fantastic set of books for kids who want to read, or adults who want to read about kids who are really good at sorting through problems and problem solving, which is an adult way of saying getting the best up on some silly adults who are trying to steal all their money. The Howl's Moving Castle series with Howl's Moving Castle, Castle in the Air, and House of Many Ways. Now, the reason why I put this series on this list, in the first book, Sophie is suddenly taken up in this world where there's magic. She's turned into an old lady, and she finds her way into Howl's Moving Castle, and very quickly adapts herself to a world where there's magic. Although she knows there were magicians around, it wasn't quite so explicit in the life of that she was leading before as a haberdasher. And then that goes on, we find out there's different worlds where they can travel to, and then that moves on through the Castle in the Sky, which is set in an Arabian Nights style place. So there's all different sorts of magic again that they are getting used to. And the final book in the series, House of Many Ways, has another young character who has to come to terms with magic in their world. Again, another set of books that I used to own, but I have since parted with them because I knew I was never going to read them again, but I did really enjoy them, and that is the Artemis Fowl series. It is fantasy. There are all sorts of fantasy elements in it, but we happen to be with Artemis Fowl, who is a very rich child who is very, very intelligent, and he is, again, problem solving his way through issues where people are trying to stop him from discovering the secrets of magic. One of the earliest children going on an adventure style fantasy books, we have the series of the Narnia Chronicles, which, depending on the order you read them in, if they're in order of chronology or order of publication, they're two different orders. But this is several different sets of children who are going through the transition from our world to a world where there's magic and mythical creatures, and that discovery and overcoming the evils of that world. Just like Harry Potter, discovering that magic is real and then discovering that Voldemort is trying to kill him. I'm surrounded by piles of books. Just in time for the series that's coming out, which I am so anticipating. This is his Immortal Instruments series by Philip Pullman, which is the Northern Lights, which it's called here, which is the Golden Compass elsewhere, the Amber Spyglass, and finally the Subtle Knife. This is the overcoming of the evils in the world. They have their demons, and that's sort of fantastical rather than just magic. Lyra has to overcome the evils, literally all of the evils in their world, to come out of the end of that one in one piece, or two pieces to include her demon. A lot of these are those strong bonding of good friends in childhood or early teenage years. Another one that doesn't have the fantasy element. If you don't like the fantasy element, I don't know why you'd read Harry Potter, but hey. If you prefer stuff that doesn't have the fantasy element and is more of a contemporary, The Summer of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, or just the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I have read it. It is completely out of my wheelhouse. Read it years and years and years ago, probably decades. I actually really liked it, but it has that strong bonding of friends who, doesn't matter what adversities they have to overcome, they're going to do it still as a friendship group. If you liked the idea of the boarding school and the magic combined, there is the Fairy Tale Reform School by Jen Colanita. There's 5 books in that series and they are just fantastic. The main character, Gilly, has been sent to this reform school for fairy tale characters because she is always getting in trouble with the Dwarven police force, and it is run by the Evil Queen, I think, from memory. And the main adversary in this is Rumpelstiltskin. It is fantastic. It's got all your favourite fairy tale characters all living in one world, and it is great. Her father is the shoemaker who makes Cinderella's glass slippers. It's just a really well put together story. That is really light, fun read. For another fantasy element, boarding school, we have the School for Good and Evil by Soman Chinani, and this is a great sort of swap out style, because the girl who is beautiful and blonde and terrible person on the inside gets sent to the School for Evil, and the girl who everyone thinks is ugly and horrid but actually does all the really good works within the community gets sent to the School for Good, and they think there has been a mix-up. This is a fantastic twin school style one. Couldn't recommend this enough. I've really got to read the rest of the series though. A non-fantasy but a sci-fi version of children living in a boarding school and learning their craft is Ender's Game. Just Ender's Game, not the rest of the series, because he's grown up in the rest of the series, but he is taught warfare and battlecraft, and I loved this book when I was 17 when I first read it, and I read it again earlier this year. Got completely different things out of it as a 34-year-old. Amazing. I really like this book. My last theme that I'm going for is the fantasy living in a world where mythical creatures are real and magic is real, but for the more grown up of tastes. I don't have the actual novels, but I do have the graphic novelization of the Dresden Files. This is by Jim Butcher, where our main character, Harry Dresden, is a fantastical detective, independent detective, and he investigates magical crime. Gets in a lot of trouble. He's a wizard as well, so Harry Potter growing up. Like, what else do you need? It's Harry Potter growing up, but living in like New York or something, somewhere like that. It's fantastic. The books, the graphic novels, they're awesome. Again, with the detective style, the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter books, obviously again for the more grown up of tastes. We have Lauren K. Hamilton's. These are a bit pulp fiction-y, but if you want that fantasy mythical creature are real, living in the real world with us, these ones. Finally, we have one of my guilty pleasures, I will be honest, the Sookie Stackhouse Vampire Mystery Series by Charlene Harris, where vampires are real and then werewolves are real, and I'm pretty sure then fairies are real and there's magic, and it's amazing. But again, more for your adult tastes. So that's my recommendations if you're hanging out after having read Harry Potter and you're wondering where to go. So if any of these are your favorite, hit me up. If you've got any recommendations for me, because I love this sort of genre, hit me up in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and happy reading. Bye. Just been crawling around getting all these books ready for you. And now I'm hot.